nerds, welcome back to the Paperfold. I am your host, Sarah, the paper nerd, and I'm so glad to be back nerding out with you on my favorite topic, stationery. This December episode is my gift to all my listeners, as my guest, the one and only Dominique Schurman, has been gifting all of us with incredible stationery design for 35 years and counting. In 1950, Dominique's father, Marcel Schurman, founded Schurman Fine Papers as a wholesale stationery importer in his Berkeley, California kitchen, according to Wikipedia. By 1961, also according to Wikipedia, it had earned its first million. In 1973, Dominique's mother, Margrit, opened the first papyrus store, also in Berkeley, to sell the brand's wares. Meanwhile, Dominique would join the family business in 1982 and become CEO in 1991. Both Marcel Schurman and Papyrus were heavily influenced and shaped by European artistry and handmade traditions as they relate to not just paper craft, but stationery's distinctive ability to celebrate a moment through time and space as only this medium can. Over the ensuing years, both Papyrus and Marcel Schurman would evolve as brands do. Rather than get into a history lesson that's accessible by any Google search, I will just say that both ventures have Dominique's fingerprints all over them, and over her tenure as CEO, she has mastered all elements of running a major brand, from product and brand development to overseeing wholesale, retail, and e-commerce operations. With that amazing skill set, Dominique was poised to launch the brand NIQUEA.D in 2020, just as the world was changing. And while most of the stationery community at that time was leaning towards smaller, more copy or illustration-driven cards unified by collection, NIQUEA.D ventured in the complete opposite direction. Each stellar handmade design from this award-winning house of stationery is testament to the medium's potential, with unexpected embellishments like flocking, die cuts, or layered art thoughtfully united to truly bring a beautiful experience to both sender and the lucky recipient. These are custom pieces of fine art, delivered to your mailbox, no less. Dominique's expertise and eye is unparalleled, so you know I have a million questions for her. It is my honor and pleasure to bring her on right after this. Hey nerds, by now most of you are doubtless familiar with that fantastic and fantastical LA-based brand Girl with Knife, as well as its creative powerhouse founder, Alicia Castaldi. This brand's rise has been as dramatic and sharp as, well, the edge of a knife. That's because Girl with Knife is more than your new BFF in paper goods and home decor. It's a mood and a lifestyle, as illustrated by the awards it's stacked up in less than 5 years like so many pairs of Jimmy Choos. Alicia won the highly competitive and coveted Artist of the Year Louis Award in 2022, and since then, she has been busy living up to that moniker, both within the stationery and gift communities and beyond. Because Alicia is a true disruptor, she has chosen to redesign a series of houses dotted across LA, from Bel Air to Palm Springs, with an eye toward creating living design spaces for her brand. These have been dubbed Knife Houses, and they are receiving major airtime from HGTV and the like. Meanwhile, Girl with Knife is the first paper brand I can think of that received major international press coverage in Hola magazine Spain, as well as Hello magazine UK, and Hola magazine Mexico. Many of us paper nerds became Swifties once we heard that the singer herself is a big card sender. Well, another celeb who I cannot name sent Taylor a Girl with Knife card atop a floral arrangement before her historic Eras concert in LA. I can only imagine that the divine blush and black design reading, "I just friggin' adore you," gave Ms. Swift inspiration to completely slay the stage that evening. Beyond all the fanfare, however, there is authentic emotion and edge behind each design, be it greeting card, candle, art print, or desk must-have. Alicia has been a guest on this podcast and shared how autobiographical notes run through every last piece. There is so much more than meets the eye. You will love exploring and discovering every last design. So, if you're a paper nerd out in the wild looking to express your best self as you uplift those you adore, head on over to girlwithknife, all spelled out.com, and immerse yourself. Meanwhile, if you are in the trade, shop this brand sensation exclusively on Faire 24/7. I guarantee your stationery, as well as your living and workspaces, will slay. Dominique, welcome to the Paperfold.
Hi, it's very nice to be here. I'm very excited to meet you, Sarah.
It's really nice to see you again. So you grew up in a greeting card family. There's only a few people I know that have done that, and you are always the first that comes to mind. You were essentially raised a paper nerd and carried on and chose to carry on the proud family tradition. So my first question for you is, did you always know you were going into the family business?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I always loved the business ever since I was a little girl, and I would spend my summers and whatever free afternoons I had hanging out at the office, which was then kind of mainly a warehouse where we did shipping and we folded cards. And I just was fascinated by the whole thing and loved it, loved the people. So I kind of grew up literally behind the scenes. And in those days, the company was very small, and my parents would bring product home to make sample books and that kind of thing for the sales reps, because we were a wholesale business. So that's how I kind of grew up, just living it every day. And we would have suppliers come and visit, and there was always greeting card product around the house. But I never really thought I was going to go into the business. I actually wanted to go to law school. But when I was about to graduate, my father announced that he was going to sell the business. He was Swiss and very planful, and he was, planning his 10-year retirement plan. Because he wanted to retire on his 65th birthday. So that was his objective. So anyway, he announced that. And I said, before you do that, why don't you let me work with you? And, I've always loved the business. Let's see what happens. And so that's what I did. And we never looked back.
Hey nerds, it is once again that time to shout out my fabulous sponsor, Kitty Meow Boutique, as well as the amazing creative community its founder, Catherine Hildner, has built around her. This Chicago force of nature is a modern-day Renaissance woman, as you'll shortly learn. Everything starts with the Kitty Meow Boutique brand. This stationery and gift range is fun, fierce, and specifically designed to make women feel confident, empowered, and courageous. These distinctive offerings can be shopped in over 1,300 stores in 13 countries, but at the core of every last SKU is Kat's commitment to her clientele. You are her number one priority, to be treated like the long-lost friend you are. Catherine knows it is a blessing to figuratively walk beside you as you navigate your own highs and lows, and that comes through loud and clear in every last offering. Speaking of which, get ready for a slew of new Kitty Meow Boutique releases. Kat is getting ready to release a ton of new stickers, candles, gift bags, and keychains. So while KMB greeting cards perfectly accessorize every last moment in a woman's life, from that new baby to a new work partnership and everything in between, these offerings in other categories allow you to truly put your personality out there. I often refer to stickers as greeting cards to the world. Well, so are candles, gift bags, and keychains. It's never been easier for your personality to truly shine with style, seasoned with the occasional snark, of course. But Catherine doesn't just talk the empowerment talk, she lives it. Just as she puts her stationery customers first, when a maker takes part in KMB education offerings, her focus is on growing and even scaling that brand, just like it was her own. Through a variety of course offerings, Kat figuratively walks alongside her clients as they build and grow their businesses. In today's tough economic climate, even a little mistake can really cost you. Kat uses her hard-won experience gained in the stationery trenches to help you navigate every last up and down, master your online business, increase sales, and boost your business confidence along the way to boot. So, whether you are wanting to turn your artwork into a card, experience the self-paced, self-study of the KMB Wholesale Intensive, join a KMB group coaching container, or dive super deep with a one-on-one mentorship, Kat can help you turn your dreams to reality. Meanwhile, everything all comes into the very sharpest focus at the Ultimate Product Party, UPP for short. It's still not too late to get tickets for Kat's May 2024 event in Southern California. There you can be in the UPP room where it all happens for 2 dazzling days of keynote speakers, breakout workshops, roundtable discussions, panels, networking, dreaming, scheming, content creating, and of course, fun and friendship. So whether you are trying to connect with that far-flung bestie or dominate the market with your brilliant creations, it all starts at kittymeowboutique.com. So get on this already, kitty cats, and be sure to tell Kat that Sarah sent you.
I had the privilege of working, kind of side by side with him in the very beginning, and I was exposed to really all aspects of the business, from answering the phone to working in the warehouse, helping him with product selection. In those days, we were an importer and distributor.
Mhm.
So we didn't publish our own product. We imported product from Europe.
Mhm.
So my father would go on buying trips to Europe and get samples. And so I started to help him with things like that, and eventually became very interested in the product development and the marketing side of the business, which is where I ended up focusing.
Wow. Let me ask you, was he going to NSS? Was he going to Atlanta? Were you?
So he would travel to Europe, to the Frankfurt paper show, and
Birmingham, probably.
the early days of Birmingham. It was a long way from what it is today. And then he would meet suppliers, and then he would often go to their offices wherever they were and meet with them, one-on-one. And he loved to travel and explore. I've always like a treasure hunt. We would various countries and look for new lines, and then trying Japan, Turkey, Italy, Germany, Switzerland. So it was kind of like a really, truly like a treasure hunt. And because he spoke German and Swiss German and felt very comfortable in Europe, he kind of had that advantage. And I was able to work with companies that may not have been familiar with the American market or interested really even in exporting, but he was able to make it all work because he had, that language ability and the understanding of both the European culture and the American culture. So that's how we did it in the early days. And then as I started to get to know the business, I started to recognize that, while we had a beautiful product line, it was very niche because it was very European.
Mhm.
And many of the American trends and even holidays, we didn't really have a very good offering because of the cultural differences. So I suggested that we start to design and publish our own cards to complement what we were bringing in from Europe and to be able to fill those gaps. And that was the beginning of a big, really, really big change in the business, because we became publishers. We started to work with artists directly. We started printing our own product and understanding what the consumer was really looking for. We were able to tailor what we were bringing to market. And then that kind of drove our sales forward at that time. And along that, around that same time, my mother decided to open a greeting card store. And she was trying to get back into business after stepping away to raise all of us kids. There were 4 of us. And so she decided to open this tiny little shop in Berkeley, and she came up with the name PAPYRUS. She has an art history background, and because of the Egyptian roots and the how paper was originally created, she came up with the name PAPYRUS. And so that is how the retail business began. But we had a very kind of split company, because the retail business was called PAPYRUS and the wholesale business was called Marcel Schurman.
Right. It could be confusing. I just think it's so interesting that when you went on sales trips and were seeing all the, edge painting, foiling, die cutting, all these embellishments. I mean, at the same time, you were kind of like, that was laying the groundwork for you to, bring all these elements into the handmade market here.
Absolutely. I was very inspired by the European market, because they, in many ways, I think, were ahead of the US market in terms of the presentation of greeting cards, the packaging, and also kind of the stature greeting cards. You know, in the UK, as you know, greeting cards are really a central part of people's lives. And so when I decided later on to launch the Papyrus product brand, I wanted to find a way to really differentiate the line from everything else that was in the market. And I kind of leveraged a lot of my knowledge and exposure to these markets around the world to think about, okay, what can we do differently? And that is how I came up with the idea of doing the cellar wrapping on the cards. I also decided to take all of the commerciality off the back of the cards. So the barcodes, the pricing, the traditional greeting card, as you know, has a lot of stuff printed on the back.
Right.
So, we removed all that and created the slip sheet that had the hummingbird story and also the sentiment and the retail price and the barcode. We added the hummingbird seal at the time. And then I thought, what can I do to the product itself to really make it stand out? And so we decided at that time to totally redesign every single greeting card in our line. And we went through every single greeting card and we thought, how can we enhance and embellish and kind of elevate this card and make it more special? And so we added foiling and we changed embossing dies, and we did die cutting, and we started to play with the handmade elements and glitter and gems, and really with the view of enhancing and making the card that much more special, but not to detract from the beauty of the artwork and the integrity of the design itself. So that's how it started. And so when we launched the Papyrus brand, it was really groundbreaking in the industry. It was totally new. No one had, a cello bag, beautifully packaged product line with all of the embellishments of the lined envelopes, the insert sheet inside, the seal and all of the rest. So that's how it started.
Mm-hmm. What year was that? I'm sorry.
That was 2003.
Wow. Okay.
Was the big debut when we launched, kind of relaunched, we converted the Marcel Schurman wholesale business to Papyrus and relaunched the entire product line.
Wow.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, a huge deal. And when I first started going to NSS, that would have been about 98. There were a lot of handmade cards there, at that point. And a lot of them were not, they really crossed the line into craft. I mean,
right.
Yeah. And you got, and both, and then slowly over the years, it's sort of, I just started seeing less and less as a letter, then as the letterpress makers came in, but the handmade customer is always there, and it's a very special type. I think it's a special type of customer. And obviously both Papyrus and NIQUEA.D cards were renowned for their meticulous kind of quality right out of the gate.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about how you see the handmade customer, and like, who is she? What is she looking for? And what do you try to deliver to her or him in each design? It is a different in America. In the UK, it's, as you mentioned, it's more like everyone appreciates it, but here it's a little more special. So I'm so curious to get your thoughts on who that person is.
I think it's the customer is someone looking for something a little more distinctive, sophisticated, understated elegance, something memorable, something that shows a lot of thought and craftsmanship, and I think has a refined sensibility. And the cards are really meant to be cherished and saved. And I think people that are looking for something that stands out from everything else really appreciate the thought and the creativity of a lot of the handmade cards that we offer. And I think what's unique about our handmade cards, as you said, there's handmade is a broad term, but some of it is just junky,
Right. And
you know,
some of it is like, let me glue this wire and this,
right.
let's just shove it in the envelope and hope for the best.
Right. But what we try and do is also innovate in terms of the materials. So we have everything from, laser cut wood to, fabric, shaped kind of resin items, gems that are all different kinds of gems. I have a few samples here, but this is like an example of the laser cut wood that is then hand applied. So it's not only that it's handmade, but it's also the way that it's done.
That's it, right?
These vellum flowers. So I don't know if you can see, but
Wow.
they're all layered and then intricately complemented with glitter, and then the little handmade banner with paper here. So it's really thinking about how to combine all the different techniques and bring really unique techniques to the market. I mean, here's a fabric with the plush slippers and the gems. So that I think it raises handmade to a very sophisticated level, and it requires true artisans to make these. I mean, it's a partnership. I've developed a very tight bond with a couple of amazing creators that help by bringing their expertise, and it's engineering, it's technology, it's all different kinds of materials being applied. I mean, look at this one that has, I mean, you could actually feel like you could eat those.
No, someone put so much care and love and thought into it.
Yeah. So we just go through every single element and think about how can we create something really remarkable, and that's the philosophy behind it. And the other thing I would say is that there are kind of two types of handmade cards. There's something like this that I'm sharing now, where the handmade elements become the design, right? So this is all handmade. There's nothing printed on this card.
Wow.
So
it's all assembled by
each piece, all the little layers of paper, all the embossing, all of the glitter, all of those colors, that's all created through these handmade elements. But then you have something like this, which is much more subtle, but also very gorgeous, where the art is really the hero of the card. And then it's enhanced with this beautiful heron that has the handmade vellum wings and the gold foil touches. So, there's really two ways to approach it. And, we try and do both.
Right, which is amazing, because then when you're pulling, when sales reps are showing them, it's like, oh, we have this, and oh, we have that.
Right. And I think the other very unique thing about the NIQUEA.D brand that I've also learned through my retail experience is that we have a lot of different looks and styles and types of cards that appeal to very different consumer tastes or sending occasion. And so we try and think about the recipient, the occasion, and provide a selection of looks and a broad range of art styles so that whoever you're shopping for will have something suitable, all kind of with a common denominator of being thoughtfully, beautifully designed, high quality materials, handmade, a lot of thought going into the editorial, all the details, as you know, the lined envelopes, the printed insert sheets. I think the insert sheets is something that is also very special, because most greeting cards you just write on the card, and to have that little tipped in detail where the paper is separate, and it provides that dimensionality and also enables us to enhance it with printing and foil and other elements. I think that's really adds a really special touch.
Oh yeah. And I mean, since I got into this business, I mean, people would be like, oh, the greeting card is a gift. The greeting card is a gift.
Right.
And it is, and it's frameable, but with you, you're getting into fine art. Like you're leaving gift, and you're getting into like, this is meticulously done, to celebrate someone's birthday when you can't be, it's,
And we want to be the experience where, if somebody gets 10 cards for their birthday, that ours is the one that they say, wow, this is really special and I want to save this one. And we talk about how meaningful greeting cards and writing can be in someone's life. And I think that's resonated with me from the very beginning. I mean, I find it fascinating and incredibly just significant that art on a piece of paper that looks beautiful with somebody's, heartfelt emotional expression privately exchanged with someone can be such a powerful connection that, I just think that's really special and it doesn't go away. It's lasting. Oh. And so, we want to be that card that somebody receives where they say, wow, not only does this look incredible, but it's inspired someone to write something really meaningful that I want to cherish and save as part of my life. And, I've told people before, and I truly believe it, that, the right card at the right time with the right words inside can really have a huge impact on someone's life, can change someone's life direction, can inspire them to make it a different decision, whatever it might be. But what else can do that? I mean,
very little, very little. And when you were talking about okay, let's say I did not get 7 birthday cards this year, but if I got 7 birthday cards this year and one of them was your card, I would know that person really cherished me. And that's really special too. I'm your favorite. I'm just reminding you,
right. Exactly. It's important and it means a lot to people.
Oh yeah,
really
completely. And they last throughout time. I mean, I've been talking about that a lot in the past couple of episodes, but it's the card doesn't change, but when you put it in a drawer, you change and your life changes. And when you take it back out of the drawer, it means something new to you sometimes. And that's part of the beauty and artistry of greeting cards too, is that, they are this thing you look back on if you save it. So
right.
I want to talk to you a little bit about design. So at markets, when I see your cards live, and even when I receive these gorgeous samples that I'll get to in a moment, I do love discovering the elements of each and how they specifically work together. It could be gold foiling, it could be paper cut, but everything is so artfully placed as to be gorgeous without crossing that gaudy line. So knowing when something is enough and stopping before it gets to be too much is a gift that you have in spades. And so I'm curious how you define over-designed and under-designed when it comes to handmade cards. Is there a certain balance you strike with each one? How do you know when it's right? And then as you were describing the cards, I sort of also wanted to ask you too, when you have this mountains image, do you have the image and then you're how do we bring it to life? Or do you say to yourself, we're going to use a metallic foil? What image are we going to use for how does I'm so curious about the process.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd say the fundamental idea is that I try and let the art lead me to where I want to go. I start with the art. I mean, and I really try and make sure that I don't overpower the art or detract from the art by overwhelming it with process. And I think that's a mistake that, I see out there now is that, it's just stuff on the card and it becomes about the stuff. And I mean, some cards you find out there, I mean, they're heavy because so much stuff. And so I really look at each piece of art and I think about for example, one like this. This is a very fun, whimsical piece of art with a lot of color and painterly style. And I say to myself, I don't want to lose those elements with whatever enhance and embellishment we're going to do. So I look for things that I can highlight, things that I can augment? How do I bring those butterflies to life and make them sparkle so they're more noticeable? But I don't want to put so much glitter on that butterfly that I can't see the gradation of color and the painterly style of art behind it. And I think that's a really important thing. And so that's my rule of thumb. I say I don't want to lose the art. And that is, I think something that often gets shortcutted. So here's the beautiful painting. And, if you put too much on it, then all of a sudden you don't see the painting anymore.
Right.
So we just went in with little elements of gold foil and then a few kind of artfully placed gems, just to really say, let's enhance and illuminate the aspects of the art that we think are beautiful and try and bring dimensionality kind of to the look and feel. But let's not, put so much glitter on this hummingbird that you don't even see those colors anymore. And I think that's how I go about it.
Yeah.
And then I think about, okay, what else can we do to add interest? And that's where we get into the lined envelopes. I wanted to show you, this is a new artist that I've been working with. I think it illustrates it really well. She's never done anything dimensional or handmade before. And, she has this amazing watercolor style. And I thought, this was really challenging for me. It says, how do I do this without ruining the kind of watercolor and the kind of simple elegance of what she's doing here? And so, we just decided for example, let's tip these flowers on so they look dramatic and have a little bit of dimension. But, let's not overwhelm them again. So we just added little features of glitter and gem, the iridescent foil on the pot. Then we did the text panel here. So it just kind of, again, makes it sparkle and shine, but you can still see the beautiful artistry.
It feels dreamy, which is what a watercolor feels like. It feels very, you took that element of watercolor, like on a flat card, it's one thing and it has a certain mood, but you kind of like pumped it up without like betraying its watercolory quality, that inherent. Oh, that's beautiful. I can see now in the light how you did the rainbow foil. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then, the inside is, I don't know if you can see, but it's 4-color artwork inside. So we kind of brought the colors through. And then the liner, it's a gold pearl paper. And I think, and then the liner just also has a lot of color and pop so that the whole thing works together to tell a story. And, and I also want to stress the quality of the paper stocks because that's something I've never been willing to compromise on. And I think, I see a lot of greeting cards out there and even some of the expensive ones that have started to really downgrade the quality of the paper. And, they're not using, pearled stocks and, there's less liner and 4-color art. And I think, stripping away those elements really takes away from the experience. So I've stayed tried and true. It costs more, but it's worth it because you can just feel the difference.
Right.
And, the paper takes the inks better and it just creates, I think, a much more elegant finished product. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and paper people know when there's a cheap paper with a.
Yeah. And, what's interesting is that when I started to put cards in cello bags, people said to me, well, no one will see all of these added value elements that you're offering. So, why don't you turn the envelope back and show the envelope in the package? And how are you going to show them the insert sheet that's special inside? And I said, for me, it's about the brand experience. And people get home and they open it up and they're so happy and pleasantly surprised to find all these extra value elements. And I think that I've always thought that's the magic. You don't have to necessarily, broadcast it at the shelf because you can't without putting labels all over everything and cheapening the product. So I said, let people go home and open it up and say, wow, I didn't know that was going to be printed inside and that it was going to have this gorgeous envelope. But then they get to understand that when they buy a brand, hopefully they can trust that they're going to get these added benefits. So
I love that. I love that you do envelopes. I'm like obsessed with envelopes, and it kills me when I get a great card and the envelope was just so obviously an afterthought, because I feel like it's part of the outfit. It's like wearing a pair of nice shoes with an outfit. Like you can't forget the envelope. So,
right.
And so many people do. And I mean,
right.
Let me ask you though, because you mentioned, obviously the elements you're going to use are only going to be the best. I do hear a little bit about supply chain issues. It's hard to get this paper. It's hard to get this ink. Are you encountering that as well?
Well, I think, during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic, yes. I mean, it was challenging, but we got through it. We didn't change anything. We just were a little bit more patient. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for my vendor partners to also understand that I'm not going to compromise on certain things. And, so then they kind of understand, and they're very proud of the product that we're producing together. So, when I say, what, it has to be this paper, they understand, and they appreciate it. And, I've built incredible relationships over my career, throughout the supply chain, because I find that my suppliers are proud to kind of be a part of all of this, and they like to know that they've helped create it. So, no, we don't cut those corners.
Good. You shouldn't. I mean, there's nothing more depressing than seeing something you think is going to be really nice, and it's like, oh, why did they use this? Or
right, and you can't go back once you start down that road. You can't go back.
So I don't usually describe like specific new product introductions here, just because they tend to get dated quickly, but I'm going to make an exception for your new collector's edition cards. It is something else. I got sent a bunch of samples, and they are just really oversized handmade creations that, again, they really do cross that line into fine art territory, as each is really a little work of art. They have double envelopes, like a wedding, like an invitation, really, and carefully considered embellishments. Each one is just a great joy to discover. And as you say, I mean, you are very good with information in the packaging, but there is no way you're going to open this and not encounter a surprise or two, both, I think, in the sending and the receiving. I mean, the person who gets this is very lucky. These are Card Lovers cards. They're $18.95 each, which is great. I think it's good because it doesn't cross that $20 threshold, which I think a lot of people kind of have in their mind as certain, it's $20. I don't know what it is. Since these kind of come out of left field in terms of what else is on the market, I mean, I'm tending to see more pared down things from more like quote unquote boutique stationery brands. I want to hear about how their idea came to you and a little bit more about how their creation unfolded.
I'm so glad you love them, because I think about what can I do that's totally new and has never been done before in our industry, which is hard. I mean, there's a lot of innovation, and so. What's interesting about our conversation is that it all started with the envelope. Mm-hmm. Because I thought nobody is doing a collectible envelope where the envelope itself is an experience. So, I thought, let's start with these incredible envelopes that are totally designed inside and out, all over the front. And as you'll notice, as you look through many of the designs, even on the back, if the pattern overlaps from the flap onto the base, it's all lined up, which has never been done before. And the idea is that the envelope itself is something that is worth saving and collecting. So we started there. And then, we thought, okay, so we have this incredible envelope. How do we do a greeting card that is worthy of these incredible envelopes? And then I thought, how can we tell a story? I wanted the whole experience of receiving one of these to be just this unwrapping of this beautiful gift, So you start with this very nice, high quality, solid envelope. You don't really know what's inside. You open it up and you see this just incredibly beautiful envelope. I mean, who's ever seen something like that, right? I mean, I just think they're amazing. And you open that up and you take out this card that hopefully is kind of jaw-dropping. I mean, that was the idea. And again, this was a very challenging project because I didn't want to overwhelm the cards with treatment and embellishment. But I mean, wow. I love that.
Oh,
that's my favorite.
I mean, this guy, come on. And you also have this to put, just this to keep it safe while he's
right. The protective, element so that you make sure nothing gets damaged. And so, and then, we thought, how do we make it remarkable inside as well? So, all of those pieces came together. And then, we did design a unique slip sheet for every card because there is a lot to understand about this product and it has never been done before. So we took the time to kind of try and show the consumer that there are many exciting elements, but I still think when you open it up, it's a wow. And I'll just share a story. I work with my son. He's in the business with me and he's seen me create and he watched me develop these cards and he said, "Yeah, Mom, those are pretty nice. Those are really special. Nothing like it." And so on his birthday, I gave him the landscape card.
Okay.
This
that one. Yes, which I also have. I mean, I'm kind of not wanting to take them out.
I know. I mean, look at this one inside. It's just like, whoo. But, he said to me when he received the card, I mean, he'd seen them in the making.
Turning out. Yeah, I know.
He said, "Mom, it was breathtaking. And it made me feel so special that I got this card from you, and, it just made my day. But, that was the goal.
Wow,
I hope you've achieved it. Yeah. I mean,
that orange is beautiful.
You kind of feel the sun on your face when you look at these.
Totally.
So that's how it happened. And so we did 15 to start. I mean, I thought, nothing like this has ever been done. No one's gone to a price point like this. And let's see how they do. But I think so far the response of everyone who sees them has been pretty encouraging and exciting because I do think everyone recognizes that it's something really different and new and special. So.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, look, if you're going to add to it, as much as we got away from collectibles about 20 years ago, but there is sort of a thing where card lovers could collect every new design.
Exactly. That would be amazing. And I thought about numbering them actually, and maybe we'll do some limited edition.
You could.
Year, kind of this is this year's special one. I love this one, this gorgeous peony. Ooh. I mean, this is a fine art painter who created this, and I mean, she's so talented. And then, what I love, the peony itself is just
fantastic.
Incredible.
A fantastic peony.
And so we enhanced it with the background, and we mounted it on this velvety flocked backing, and then the inside. I mean, look at that. It's all flocked.
Wow. That's flocked. Wow.
Yeah. So it has texture, and then the envelope is just also, I think, kind of a work of art in and of itself. And then this is what I meant by the designing.
It lines up.
And you see how it lines up.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you tell, like, if you're shopping for clothes and if the fabric should line up across the seam,
Exactly.
Like
So
that, or in a bathroom, with wallpaper, it's perfect.
yeah, well, but those details make a huge difference. And then this is all blocked inside.
Who would think? Well,
Yeah.
during COVID, during lockdown, when cards started getting, assumed a new importance, I would call when you would get one like a red carpet moment. These are red carpet moments without the COVID.
I'm so excited. I'm pretty jazzed about them. I'm so happy you love them.
Oh, I love them. No, and thank you for sending me a few samples. I mean, like I didn't know how to process them. I had to just sort of look at the corner of my desk for a few days before I could start interacting with them, because they're so precious. I mean, I think often, with stationery, with gifts, it's like you want stuff to be precious, but you don't want it to be too precious that you don't use it. Like, oh, this journal is so nice, I can't use it. Like you're right on that line, but like once you dive in, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I used that. I'm so glad.
I mean, it was meaningful to be able to give one to my son. It was kind of the first one I'd given, and he loved it so much, and it was just made me, it's just heartwarming.
Oh yeah, totally.
You kind of think, and you could just create some, something. The envelope by itself. I mean, as I said, that's where it started.
I mean, it's all about the envelope with cards. People do not think about envelopes as much, but the moment when you open it and take it out, like, we don't think about that moment, and that moment is so important. I think, as card makers, we get so caught up in the elements. Oh, this is on the back. Oh, this is on the front. Oh, this is the greeting, or there's no greeting. But you forget that really it's about the experience of receiving it, either in the mail or on top of a gift. And it's something that, happens in real time. And if we're not like sending and receiving our cards, we miss out on that. And our own product it's not up where it could be. But I'm sure he'll save that card forever. So
I hope so. And maybe for, maybe if he has children one day, maybe one of them will find it in his special box, never know.
I bet he will. And I bet they will. So I think it's so interesting. Like, now I'm starting to see a lot of little makers open studio shops. And not only is it, I think, a viable, income stream, but the value of seeing the customer in the wild, so to speak, interacting with your line. What do they go to? What do they pass up? What do they look at? Is invaluable. And, you were involved with the running of papyrus stores for, ever, and before launching NIQUEA.D. So you've had so many opportunities to observe customers in the wild. What did you learn? Like, what did you learn from those years? And what would you tell retailers who sell cards not to do?
It's really interesting that you've, kind of focused on that. I think the retail environment and watching customers, talking to customers, observing what they do and what they like, has been the most informative and educational aspect of my career. And I've learned more about greeting cards through that experience than anything else, because when you're a wholesaler, you're one step removed from the consumer. Your customer is the buyer and you have to, convince that buyer to buy your product, but you don't really know what happens next. And when you can see what's actually selling through the register and what people are responding to, it's often very different than what you would expect, which is really eye-opening. So I think the first thing I learned is, keep an open mind, try new things, because the consumer is incredibly savvy, very aware of what's in the market, and will surprise you with their degree of curiosity about what's new, what's different. I've just found that really fascinating. And at the time I was running both the wholesale business and the retail business, And I would compare our best sellers, so the wholesale business would think one thing, but the consumer was telling us something different. Whole assortment to the consumer, you really learn what what's working and what's not.
It's fascinating to me, that gap and that distance, and like you being able to kind of track it is just an incredibly powerful tool, I would think.
Oh yeah, it was great, and it really informed, my approach to product development from then on, because I kind of understood that you can't look back. And I think, a mistake that a lot of companies make, it's a natural mistake, is you look at your best sellers and you look behind you as to, what worked and what didn't work. And you try and kind of stay in that lane. And what I learned through my retail experience is that you've got to look ahead and offer something that hasn't been done before. And that's risky and scary, because you have to be willing to invest in something kind of untested. But that's where, something like the collector's edition comes into play. It's like, okay, let's show the consumer something totally new that's going to surprise them, and take that chance. Because if you can be successful at that, it's groundbreaking, and it propels your brand to a new place, because the consumer starts to recognize that you aren't, looking, they can see you're not looking back, you're looking forward. I mean, it's really, I just gained so much respect, really, for the consuming community, because people are really very sophisticated in how they shop and think about things, especially in the premium space. Maybe, I don't know, that was my experience, but if they're going to spend $10 on a card, they want it to be something really special, and they don't want it to be something they've seen, year in and year out and before. They want you to inspire them with something new and something different. So what I would advise a retailer today is, look for those things that are new and different and set you apart from, our consumers have so many choices today in retail, right? I mean, we can shop anywhere and we can shop from our couch. So if they're going to come to your store, I think, the expectation is that you're going to offer a new experience, a new way of presenting things, a unique way of merchandising, bringing, your creativity and your ideas into the space so that your customer experiences something new.
Oh, completely. And that's what they're looking for in retail. I mean, if you're going to a specialty retail, I mean, like they don't want to go see the same old that they can see on their screen.
Right, exactly. And they want to see it paired with something that they wouldn't have thought of themselves necessarily. How can I present this in a way that's, new and different and refreshing, and offer it with, other products that take it to a new dimension. And that's hard. It's hard to do, but I think a cohesive assortment, a certain point of view, is something that the consumer is looking for today. And when they go to a store, they want that retailer to, bring a new vision to life for them.
Right.
So in greeting cards, it's about finding the innovative product, putting it together. I would say, I think a mistake some retailers make with greeting cards is they buy lines. They'll buy this from this line, this, and they put it on a spinner or whatever, and they line it up, and then they're expecting the consumer to shop every single fixture and look through all this stuff. And, for me, when I'm shopping for a card, if I want a thank you card, I want to see all my thank you card choices in one place. I don't want to have to go to this rack and that rack and this other rack. I want to be able to see my selection kind of all together, so I can make my choice.
Right.
So
and maybe put something near it that I might be able to put in the envelope, or make it a dynamic thing where I'm customizing something for the customer. I know. I feel like shopping in a lot of these mass, these big boxes, it's very dehumanizing. They're so staid and, everything's so perfect. Like I love going into a more, funky independent store where it's just like, vignettes are built, displays are built, and it's like an experience for me to discover it. And I tend to agree that the consumer for the handmade card, that's what they want. I mean, they want to be, entertained and dazzled, and then they want to be able to give it to their friends and send it off into the world. Yeah.
I mean, shopping now has become, it is entertainment, right? That's why people go out. And if you can delight someone by just creating a very inviting, space and unique merchandising and inspire them to think of things in new ways and get ideas, I think that's a real honor to be able to do that. And I think for those retailers that are successful, it's a home run. I mean, I was in a store the other day in Minneapolis that I absolutely love. It's called Ampersand. Maybe I shouldn't say.
I think I've heard of it. That's okay. That's okay. People say names of stores on this.
Yeah. Okay. I happen to know the owner. She's been buying my product for decades, and every time I go to her store, I'm just blown away. It's a very high-end gift shop, and she carries all the high-end tabletop brands.
Which can be hard
but she has
these days, which can be really
very hard. But the way she puts it all together and the thoughtfulness with the merchandising, and then she has this paper room that is just, you just want to live there.
That's so fun.
Yeah. So I go there and I can never stop spending money in there. Everything looks so good. And it's like, wow, it's so aspirational.
Right.
And to see it done really well is always a great experience.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to also put down any big boxes. For example, I love Paper Source's card wall. Like unfortunately, the Paper Source in my town closed. But when we had it, I used to love going to their card wall, and I felt like here's a bigger retailer that really understands how to make this category exciting, how to merchandise it, how to group it with boutique gifts, but not be too gifty. It's just,
it's hard. It's definitely a fine line, and it's tough. And it's harder when, I've when I had 200 papyrus stores, it's very hard to create that community, regionality, uniqueness in every store. And I think that's a big challenge for retailers is, okay, when I have more than one or two or three, how do I make each one special and unique and dialed into where it is? And that, if I were to do it again, I'd spend a lot more time on that, because I think that's important. And what people need and want, they want their local store to reflect their community and, what's going on around them, not necessarily. I used to call it Anywhere USA. You'd walk into a mall and you could be anywhere.
Right. They're all the same.
Yeah, that's awful. I think those days are over for retail.
I would tend to agree, but but you look at like a retailer and I'm just pulling her out of my hat, Audrey Ederbanek, who LA store, she makes her stores really special. She has really, really special promotions. Like last year during the holiday season, I think anyone who brought in a dog, they had a Santa hat and they took a picture of the dog in the Santa hat and they gave it to them. Special things that make it more special, and also that speak to your, like you say, speak to your region. Like you don't want to show up with a super New York store in Milwaukee.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely an art and a science for sure.
Yeah, and I also think that the retailers who do really well, they understand how to use social media. Like they understand that Instagram is a tool.
Right.
Live there, but they manage to offset it and, promote themselves as a destination, move what's new, but still
Right.
keep focus on like who is actually physically able to come in.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the social media aspect is essential now. And we all live there. It's unavoidable. And so, and it's informative and it's fun if it's done well.
Right, right. The retailers who do make it fun and get their customers engaged, like it's, there's a real value there.
Yeah.
So our last question is a new department here at the Paperfold that I'm calling Nerd Notes. It is sponsored by Paper Baristas, who, if you listen to that episode, is dedicated to making the world a better place, one card at a time. And how better to do this in a small but important way than with snail mail. So in this segment, my guest and I both share a favorite card or letter we've received and why it is so special. And it's just the first one that comes to your head that you're comfortable sharing. And I'll go first. Unfortunately, I have a few letters like this in my collection from someone I really cared about who is no longer with us. This one comes from another maker who was also a designer to watch, like you, Melissa Danaher of Bella Ink Designs. She was actually the very first name in my very first group in 2010. And I reached into a big box of notes I'd been saving, and I just randomly pulled this letter from her. So it wanted to be here today. It's dated July 2015. It's on her custom stationery.
Beautiful.
I know it is. And really, it's just a friendly thank you, but now it really means a lot more. It just says, "Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for including me in your article. It was a much needed boost. I hope you're enjoying your summer." She drew a little sun and she signed Melissa. And I have to say, I hold it and I remember not just her, but also all the amazing work that she put out into the world to celebrate birthdays and special events, not unlike yourself. So let's hear yours, Dominique.
Okay. Well, I have one letter that's very special, and I'll share it today. I mean, it's kind of a wild story, but it's framed.
Ooh.
This is my great grandmother, and it's been in our family. It's been passed on, and she gave it to her daughter in 1860 on August 18th. And this is her handwritten letter. It's in German. I'm not going to be able to read that. I'll read what it says, because my mother gave this to me, and it's really resonated with me. And I just think it's kind of symbolic of what our industry does and how these letters and words and cards can be saved and cherished. So this says, "Simplicity, my daughter, is the constant companion of innocence. So may you too choose simplicity in your words, your dress, and all that you begin. Avoid the artificiality which does not bring happiness, but instead distorts, particularly a young woman. Stay simple and good, my daughter, and you will be joy of your parents and create the greater happiness for yourself. As you read these words, remember always your dear old mother."
Aw, that is so beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? And I thought, I mean, it's so the words mean so much, What is this? 150 years later.
It's amazing. So, I feel like you could rework that into a card for a daughter. Like I would say that to my,
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, I just thought, and I have this in my house, and I've shared it with my kids, and I'm going to give it to one of my kids, one day. And I just feel like, this symbolizes so much. And,
it's beautiful. I love that there's innocence and simplicity. Like that's very beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, great values, right? I mean, and it's just amazing. And that, you can see the ink, and, I can just envision her writing that, back back in the day.
I often say, my grandparents would give me the cards, birthday cards with like the long rhyming, I call them the rhyming couplets.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would just sign their name, and I'll say, well, they picked this card, and it's the signature that's the value that means so much. But like that is really something else. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I just thought it has been an inspiration for me, as I continue in my work, and I just really think it's a wonderful thought that these cards that are put into the world and the emotion and feelings that are shared can inspire people, take you back to that moment, and can really be discovered generationally. I mean, I have my memory box. I have it here. I'll show it to you. And, one day somebody's going to go through this and read.
Big.
It's big. It's big. I am in the business, but
mine's a little embarrassing as well. Yeah. My mind's embarrassed and disorganized.
Yeah, I know it's kind of a heap, but it's a really neat thought, and that'll give them a view into my life, after I'm gone, and I just think that's kind of a very remarkable thing that we do, and we don't really talk about that aspect of it that much, but I think it's real, and I think it means a lot to people, and there is a thread through the generations of words and emotions and greeting cards and letters that have been exchanged. So
totally. And when you think about how your artistry has become the thread through which so many others tell their story, like people you'll never meet, people you'll never,
right,
and you're part of their story. Like, I think that's something to be so proud of, and I feel like we often forget about that, and we do such important heavy lifting, emotional heavy lifting, and but also just keeping people connected through time, and it's often not acknowledged, and you're really at the top of the of that thread, so to speak.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I used to talk about often with our stores that we share in people's most meaningful moments in their lives, whether it's a new baby or a wedding or an anniversary or a condolence or a birthday, whatever. But these are really important milestone moments for people, and that we get to be a part of that and share in that. People would come and tell us their stories, and ask us to help them write, sometimes a message in a card. I mean, it was just, it's very touching.
Right.
And like you said, I think we've touched millions of lives over the decades. It's a pretty amazing thought. When I slow down enough to think about it, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And people, they say to me, "Oh my God, I love your cards," and I go out of my way to find them and send them. It's very, 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 very meaningful. Really is.
Yeah, I know you should be so proud, and I love that your son is in the business as well. Is he your only child who's involved?
I have two sons.
Uh-huh.
My oldest is a musician, and does that, and my youngest has, kind of like me, I think, kind of always loved the business and has worked in it alongside now for 10 plus years, I'd say.
Wow.
And he does all of the the operational aspects of the business, and also the website, and but he has a very creative eye, and loves the product and the process, and he he kind of feels the emotion of the business, just as I always have. So that's been fun. It's fun to share it with him, and I hope he can continue it on one day. We'll see.
That's great. I mean, how wonderful. The only other kind of family that I can kind of compare it to is legacy with Carlos and, Carlos Lonzo, and then Libby started Seedlings, and she sort of took it into place.
That's right. Yes.
So I think it's so amazing to see, how these business, how a family business carries on and redefines itself and, speaks to a different audience and moves with the times. But you should be so proud. Hopefully one of these days I'll get a chance to meet him at market. Does he go to market?
Yeah, he does. We'll be in Atlanta this year together, and he doesn't go to everyone, but neither do I. But we try and do Atlanta for sure, and sometimes New York. And then I don't know what we'll do, but yeah, he's out there. He's around.
Well, hopefully I'll be in Atlanta this year, so hopefully I'll pass across and I can.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be great. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Well, Dominique, I cannot thank you enough for coming by the Paperfold. It was a real treat. I really, really enjoyed our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I loved it too. It was really a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for dropping in the Paperfold. Stationery is so lucky to have your expertise and artistry in our corner, making every last special occasion truly magical, not just today, but tomorrow too. Finally, thank you for listening. Of course, feel free to give me a 5-star rating and review if you're so inclined. The Paperfold is proud to be a member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. To learn more about this dynamic community, please visit evergreenpodcast.com. Thank you so much, nerds. Have a wonderful holiday season, and please stay safe out there.